It's Saturday with Seniors, Part 2. We have Basil Short joining us here. We are in his dining room outside the area of Cherry Flats. He is 75 years old, and today's show brought to you by FCCB, the local offices in Blossburg, Mansfield, and Wellsboro, serving our community for over 150 years and proud to sponsor Saturday with Seniors. And thanks for letting us join you again.
No problem.
I think last time we were talking about when you were a kid, some of the games you played as a kid, throwing balls over the roof of the house. What was that game called?
Any over.
Any over. What were some of the other games that you played back then?
Well, we played Red Rover.
So that's when everybody holds arms, right?
Yes.
And you have two teams.
And then you say Red Rover.
Yeah. And somebody
Kevin
runs
come
over, and now someone who's 300 pounds, you might have a dislocated socket.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that in school anymore. Maybe they do. Do they still?
I don't know. They did when I was a kid. But...
Okay. Jason was still the Red Rover team. What other games do you remember?
Not very many. Lots of times I would be in the house playing board games and stuff like that, like Parcheesi and Monopoly and stuff like that.
Oh, I hate Monopoly.
One of my favorites.
So tell me about your first car.
My first car was a 1955 Chevy Bel Air. It was a 6-cylinder, and it ran pretty good.
You still have that car, right?
No, I wish I did.
Do you remember about what you paid for it?
$50.
$50.
Yeah.
You financed that, or was that all one lump sum?
My dad bought it. He got it from in Wellsboro, between what used to be A.C. Smith's and the credit union. They had a little alleyway there, and in between there they had cars back there. And Callahan was the one that run it. I can't remember his first name. And sold it for $50.
Nowadays, that wouldn't be the tank of gas. The whole deciding thing would be, is the tank full or empty on that price?
Yeah. And when we first started out, there'd be a noise in it, like a knocking. And then after it warmed up, the knock would be gone. And my dad was kind of concerned about it. My other uncle there, used to...
This is your, 280-pound uncle who would change transmissions without a jack.
No, this is another one.
Okay.
He was a supervisor in a Chevy plant in Buffalo, New York. And he was up for a visit, and my dad asked him if he could see what was wrong with it. So he checked it out, and the pan that covers the flywheel had a stone dent in it. So he took it off, straightened it out, put it back on, and started to perfect. So my dad took the car back to where he got it from, and he said to the guy, he said, "That car you sold me," he said, "that knock he had in it?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm sorry." He says, "Did it go or something?" He said, "No." He says, "Listen to this." He started it up, and Dad told him what was wrong with it, and he said, "Boy, if I'd have known that's what was wrong with it," he said, "I'd have sold it for $150."
Well, good for you. You got a good deal out of that one. So any stories with that car, do you remember? Any speeding tickets you got with it or anything?
No, never got any speeding tickets. The only ticket I got was failure to turn the lights on when it was dusk.
Do you remember when the drive-in movie theater was around?
Yep, I went to the drive-in movies with it.
The Y drive-in movie theater, Route 6 between Mansfield and Wellsboro. That was gone before I was here. What was it like?
Oh, it was nice, real good. Especially if you went on Wednesday nights, they had $1 a carload. Didn't matter how many people they had in.
And back then, people would put a lot more people in a car than they do now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hide them in the trunk.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, you could even ride in the back of a pickup truck at one point, right?
Yes, could.
Throw the 9 kids in the back of the pickup truck, or however, the back seat. I remember they just kept sliding kids across the bench seat until you couldn't push another one in, and then you slam the door.
Yep.
That was a full cargo. So it was $1 for the whole carload on Wednesday night at the Y Drive-In.
Yes.
Do you remember some of the movies you saw? Smokey and the Bandit, I think, was one of the big ones.
Yeah, one of them was Smokey and the Bandit, and
that was the one I heard sold out. They had an incredible crowd.
Yeah, they showed them near all week long. I really can't remember a lot of them. They used to sit and watch the cartoon that was on before, right?
How about roller skating? Do you remember the roller skating rinks?
Yeah, I remember them, but I never roller skated.
Bowling alleys?
Well, I went to the Laurel Lanes down there in Wellsboro.
Did you ever go to any of the other bowling lanes in Wellsboro? There were some other ones, Pearl Street upstairs at one time. And
No, I just went to that one there. And when I was in school, I did go up there in American Legion upstairs to a high school dance. But other than that, mainly kept to myself.
Do you have any other memories of things in town that were there that aren't there now in any of the towns around here?
Well, I used to go to a gas station there in town. I buy my soda for 12 cents.
Which town are we talking about?
Wellsboro.
And which gas station? Where was it?
It's not there no more. It was a golf station. It was Broughton's Golf Station on the corner of Pearl and East Avenue, where the bank sits now.
Yep.
I would go there and have my car work done if I need some work done on it. Buy me a soda for 12 cents. The reason why it was 12 cents is because I had a 2-cent deposit on the bottle. And we'd go around and collect bottles that we'd see and have enough to where we could buy another bottle of pop.
There you go. And you made the world a little cleaner at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, so back then, where was the swimming pool in Wellsboro?
Didn't have a swimming pool.
There used to be one up on the hill, I believe, before it was in town. But
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about, but it's up on Woodland Avenue.
Woodland Park, yeah.
Woodland Park, yep.
It was out of town, so I'm sure it wasn't always something that was right
it
immediately.
wasn't really out of town. Woodland Avenue was right there off from Jackson.
Well, you had to walk uphill, and I mean, by today's kid standard, it was out of town.
Oh, I gotcha.
You had to put your shoes on to get there, you know? That was a lot of uphill to get there.
I had to walk uphill both ways.
Yeah. So you worked in a charcoal factory. Let's go back to
Yeah.
that. And then was that a job you did for many years?
A couple of years, and then I quit and went to work for LG Niles Lumber Company.
In Wellsboro, when you're
In
heading out towards
Wellsboro.
the canyon. That's an empty
Yep.
building now, sits on the way out towards the country club. What did you do there?
I stacked lumber.
You just couldn't get away from this wood lumber stuff, could you?
Not for a while, I couldn't, because then I quit that place after a couple of years and went to work at the Great Atlantic Pacific Tea Company in Horseheads.
Wow.
And there I stacked cases of syrup and jams and jellies for a while, and then I went driving forklift.
So going back to your first job, can I ask you how much you got paid in your first job? You don't have to tell me any of the others, but the first one I'm really curious.
Can't remember. It was below minimum wage. It wasn't much.
The minimum wage then was like $1.40 an hour, I think, probably. It had to
Something
be.
like that. I think maybe I was making $1 an hour
Yeah.
for that hard work, and I was making $1.50, I think,
Yeah.
at LG Niles, and thought we were doing real good there. When we went to the AMP, I was making $1.98 starting out.
And then you were really making it good, huh?
Oh yeah, and one of the things there, once a year they'd have inventory.
This is the AMP plant
The
in
AMP
Big
plant, Big
Flats, that huge building.
It was, and when they have their inventory, he'd ask different ones. He said, "You want to work inventory?" When he got to me, he says, "You are working inventory," because they knew I found different mistakes, where people counted and miscounted, stuff like that.
So were you working at the plant when it closed, when they announced it was going to be closing?
No, I quit a year before.
That must have been a sad day when that was announced.
I think it was, but I told some of my fellow workers, I said, I'm going to quit, and when I quit, they're going to close the plant down. Yeah, right. 1 year later, they closed the plant down.
And then where'd you go from there? Is that where you retired?
No, I went from there. We worked a place called Precision Finishing, where they made inserts for your TV guides and all occasion cards, like Christmas and birthdays and stuff like that.
TV Guide was the most read publication in the United States for over a pretty long time period. People forget that in history, how it was like 80-something% of households got TV Guide every week.
Oh, yeah. Going back to the EMP, one of the things that we liked pretty much when there was they had what they called a storage cell. There you could get like a pound of coffee for $1, sometimes a little less than that. You could buy 20 pounds of macaroni or spaghetti for a couple of dollars.
Yeah. That was a nice little extra to have for you
Yeah.
there. So what are some more interesting things? You ever meet anybody famous in your life?
Yes, I met, don't know if anybody remembers, he's a wrestler, Ted Arcidi. And I met him at a restaurant one day there. He pulled in right beside me, and I said to my wife, I said,
I'm going to whoop that guy's butt.
no. I said, that's Ted Arcidi. And I got up. When I stood beside him, I was the same height that he was and everything. But he was a little bit more muscular than I was, but
Yeah.
that's because he worked out. But he was a pretty good guy. I mean,
Do you remember the first band you saw in concert?
well, the only one I saw was Doc and Chicky Williams.
Yeah,
That
we
was
still play them
back in New
sometimes
York.
on Sunday Night Oldies.
And I also saw Cowboy Copus.
Oh, now Cowboy Copus passed away in the same airplane as Patsy Cline.
Yes.
He had a #1 hit before that, but tragic night took both their lives and the pilots as well.
Yeah. I think he was one of the first ones that did Deck of Cards.
Yeah. All right, so let me ask, when you were a kid, were they playing 78 records?
Yes, they were, but they also had what you call the 8-track tapes.
Okay, this is when you were a little older than a kid, but because when you were first born just 75 years ago, we had 78s, 33s, but 8-track tapes, big in the 1960s and 70s, I think?
Yeah, around there.
They were, how would you describe an 8-track tape to a kid who's never seen one? Yeah, good luck, huh?
That's what I was say.
So they might know what a cassette tape is, but this was shaped more like a tombstone, and you plugged it in, and it didn't have rewind. It could only go forward, and you could choose which track. They called them 8-track because it was actually 4 different sets of music you could listen to at a time, but it was the left and right of each. So they could only play forward because they couldn't rewind. So they broke sometimes.
Right, and I repaired them.
You're the only person I've ever met that can repair an 8-track tape. So anybody listening has an 8-track tape in disrepair, Basil Short, he's the man.
And I've repaired cassette tapes, and I also videotapes.
The VHS tapes.
Yep.
Did you just use Scotch tape on the back, or did you get a repair kit?
I used Scotch tape on the back.
Yeah, that's what I used to do too. When I worked in radio, I learned there's actually a repair kit designed to work for that a little better.
And there's some, I had a couple of them at the VHS, that the case itself was broken. I took the tape out of the case and put it in another one for them.
Yeah.
And took the label off the broken one, and it was just like brand new.
There you go. And how about, did you go to any of the festivals, like the county fair back then, the Mansfield Fair? Did you ever go to the
just in Wellsboro when they had Laurel festivals.
What was Laurel Festival like in the early days?
Well, to begin with, the parade wasn't as stretched out as it is now. They were much closer together. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the foods and stuff that you got at the green there were a lot cheaper.
Well, everything was cheaper, as we learned earlier about your 25-cent gallon of gas there, yeah.
10-cent ice cream.
Yeah, and 12-cent soda pops.
Yep. Well, everything was a lot different.
Yeah, well, tell me how it was different. That's what I want to hear about. Tell me about that. What other things went on? Was there live music? Was the carnival? I think someone told me the carnival was different then.
Yeah, the carnival.
The Fireman's Carnival was over by the courthouse, I believe, back then. And
yep.
So what do you do with your free time now?
Oh, play on my computer.
So you're not afraid of technology? A lot of people, once they get to be in their 70s, you're 75, start to be afraid of learning new things, but that hasn't struck you yet.
No, I got some games I play on there on Facebook, like Happy Acres. And
so you got a farm on Facebook.
A couple of them.
You grew up on a farm, right, that didn't have electricity at the beginning, right? Or didn't have running water. You had an outhouse.
Didn't have running water. Down in Morris, it didn't have running water. My dad used to say, yes, we have running water. You run down the hill with a bucket and run back up the hill with a bucket.
So in Farmville, do you have it set to Amish mode so that's similar to your old farm that you grew up on?
No, I have it set to
modern day mode.
Modern day, yeah.
So what do you think about today's world versus the world you grew up in? If you had to put a person on this planet, which would you put them in?
I'd put them back where I was growing up. One of the things my brother and I had to do when we were on Oregon Hill, we had 2 cows. I had to milk the cows by hand.
Oh, wow.
And we carried the feed, like from here to that barn over there. I don't know how many feet that is. One on each shoulder. He had 2 and I had 2. They were 100-pound bags.
And you carry those?
We carried it.
So would it be fair to say farm boys are pretty tough boys back in those times?
They were pretty...
I mean, not knocking now, but you guys without your whatever you want to call it, you didn't have a forklift or anything. You were the forklift.
Yeah, we were the forklift, yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else you would like to share? Any last memories or thoughts or anything? Do you have a spouse? Are you married?
Yeah.
I think we should probably at least recognize her here for a second.
Her name is Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm. And how long you guys been together?
42 years. It'll be 43 this year, I think.
Did you meet at the Grange?
No, I met her at my one brother's place.
So you have 42 years together. Well, congratulations. Any advice to anybody to keep it together for 42 years? Because that's like a record these days, unfortunately.
Well, as a joke, I used to say we have a 50-50 marriage. She tells me what to do and I do it.
Okay.
But just do things together, and like the cooking and whatever else, do it together, and you'll be all right.
Well, it sounds like you are, and your health is doing wonderful. You came outside to greet us, so you're taking care of yourself. That's good.
I don't know if it means anything, but I worked at Ward Foundry for 15 years. When I retired back in 2009, in November of 2009, I had a massive heart attack. In 2010, I had a triple bypass. And then in 2013, I had 1.5 foot of my colon removed for cancer. Other than that, I've been good.
Well, you're doing well. So hope to interview you again maybe in 10 more years, maybe 25 more years.
That'd be all right.
All right. This has been Saturday with Seniors. It's all brought to you by FCCB's local branches in Mansfield, Wellsboro, and Blanchburg. And over 150 years, your hometown bank, FCCB, serving our community. Member FDI.